Hello and welcome to Money Matters. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Dean Greenberg of Greenberg Financial Group. You're looking bright and shiny today.
Another week and another time to be here with you, Sarah. This is so nice.
So sorry. Spend your days
I'm not
me.
complaining. Are you complaining?
Never. I always learn so much and we have a lot of fun. We make money fun because money matters, right?
There you go.
There you go.
You know how it's funny? There's so many Money Matters shows. I didn't even realize that. So when you're looking for my podcast, it's got to be Money Matters with Dean Greenberg.
Oh, really?
Yes. If you just look up Money Matters, there might be 150 of them.
Well, none of them matter.
And I've been doing this since '88, so they all took my idea.
You know what? Haters will hate, but it's the best form of flattery. You know what I'm saying? Can I get on with the show, please?
Let's go.
Just kidding. I want to talk today about the phases of retirement because we've talked a lot on other shows about the way that we approach money differently, right? When you get towards retirement. But I think it's important to delineate how many phases we get through and how we're going to look at those differently.
Well, obviously it always starts with the plan. We always talk about planning. And when you're planning, it does depend on where are you at in the planning process. So obviously the goal is always to put enough money away so that if you don't have enough income, you're going to use your investments that you put away to be able to live on, and you're going to have to generate income off of it. If you're lucky enough in the situation that you're going to be able to not have to touch your investments, then that's good. Most people aren't anymore because we used to have, during the accumulation phase, was pension plans. And you didn't have to put, you were putting money away that you didn't realize you're putting money away. You were funding a defined benefit plan, but the corporation was responsible for making sure there was enough money in there to pay your pension when you retired. Pensions have gone away. They've been replaced on the most part, except for government and state and some corporations. They've been replaced by 401k plans, and that's something we need to get in talking about later, also about it. But so you have phases, right? Going into retirement, you got your accumulation phase, you got your retirement phase, and then you have your distribution phase. Sometimes people, by the time they come to us, it's all three of them at the same time. They've accumulated while they're retiring, and now they got to distribute it all in with 1 year. But what I want to do is actually talk about it where you know you're accumulating money for the next 10 or 20 years. Then we'll talk about the retirement phase as you get closer, which I kind of look at is leading the 5 years up to where you're going to be, because you got to start making choices, maybe even 10 years. And then once you're in that, do you need to take money out right away, or do you not have to?
When you're in the accumulation phase, maybe somebody like myself, how are you accounting for inflation when you're trying to create that, budget of how much do I need to retire? How you account for inflation as it's...
I know that the professionals that are doing the financial planning always go, well, let's put a number in there for inflation. Well, what number do you put in? Do you put in the zero inflation that we had for the last 5 years, or do you put in the 8% inflation? So we kind of look at it more of a 2% inflation is what we look at and try to account for as we move forward. Because you don't really know, you got to look at it over time. But inflation is fine, but if you really think about it, once you get to retire, whether it's 65 or 70, inflation is there. Is it going to really hurt you as much except when it gets up to 8% like it is now? But if it's just going along, you need to have that income plus a little bit more that can say, I can live off this. Mm-hmm. Because as you get older, even though there's inflation, what I have found, people spend less. You spend a lot more when you first start out. And that's what I call the retirement phase. Do you have money? Do you have capital to do those things you've always dreamed about? And I always tell them, do it. Because I've seen way too many people not make it too far after they retire. For whatever reason. They get bored, they get this, they get that, they get sick, and they just don't do it. But I've also found as you get older, and especially 80 seems to be the mark right now, people spend less money. Mm-hmm. They don't have the energy or the desire to do the things they did in their 60s and early 70s. Mm-hmm.
So we're looking, though, each phase we're looking at the way that we invest differently, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So in accumulation, you're someone like myself where you're you're working, you're also trying to support maybe families or whomever. We have a lot of outflow as well. You're looking at your investing differently than you would.
Right. So when we sit down and we start doing the plan in the accumulation phase, we look at how many years you have to retirement. We want you to put as much money as you possibly can in your 401k plan. If you have a Roth part of that, we want you to put in the Roth part of your 401k plan. If you're still eligible for Roth, we want you to put in your Roth plan. Why? Because the Roth is going to help you when you get into the distribution phase of being able to not have to pay taxes on your money coming out. But we try to make sure you're accumulating money while you're doing it. Also, if you have outside investments, we talk about that. We figure out what's going on. Then your portfolio. How are you going to bring your portfolio? Obviously, if you got 10 more years, you want to be more growth oriented. You want those things to go up. As you get closer, you want to be a little bit less, but you always want to be mitigating risk. And that's, and it depends. That then comes to the little minutia part of how you're managing money, who's managing money, and how they're going to do it. And most people just say, just let it ride. We don't do that. Because we are concerned about markets like last year in 2022 and what could happen in 2023. But we also want to be more aggressive, like after the Fed starts lowering rates again and we start seeing the economy maybe start picking up again. You still want to be more aggressive to make up for these 2 years that you're not going to make anything.
So we're going to start the year off right, and we're going to have them come and see you and talk about what their plan is. And this is not just like a pile of statements, but this is a comprehensive plan that looks at all of the aspects of your financial health and then tries to decide if you're on the right path to get where you need to be.
Well, remember, in the financial plan, which we weren't talking about, during the accumulation phase, getting close to retirement, you got to make sure you protect it. You have health risks there. You don't just have market risk. You have health risk. You have longevity risk. Remember all those things that we talked about in one of the other shows. So you got to take all the risks into consideration and make sure that they're handled as you're accumulating wealth to go forward.
Well, if they're wondering why that phone number is along the bottom of the screen, that phone number is, again, 844-544-4909. That's the phone number you're going to call so that you can get a hold of Dean and his fabulous team to look at your financial plan if you have one. And if you don't, let's create one so that if you're not on the right path, you can be for 2023. Because as we said, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I know today I want to know, am I on the right place so I can get to that beach?
And that's a service we do for no charge. It's free. Okay?
I love when you say that.
I know. People say, don't say free, don't say free. There are no free lunches, but this is free. You can get your retirement plan, your financial plan for free. Do we want to do business with you? Of course we do. I'm not, you know what I mean? If I said, no, I don't want to do business with you, then I'm an idiot. But I'm not an idiot, so I want to do that. And if you like what we do and like what we say, I'd rather you do it through us than somebody else.
Who can't like you? Are you kidding me?
That's a fair deal.
Please stay with us. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and talk more about how your money matters. We'll see you soon.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Hello and welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Dean Greenberg of Greenberg Financial Group, and we're having fun talking about finance as we always do. But before break, we were talking about the different phases of retirement, and I'd love to talk a little bit about income and how we look at income so differently as we approach retirement and how we can actually generate income with our investments.
Yeah, but before we go to that, it's funny.
He always does this.
I know, because you say it reminds me of something. When you say finance, it's like the F word to people. Finance, they're so afraid of it. Oh, we shouldn't say it. Oh, that's not there, and they push it away. But people are starting to realize that they need to start learning more and more about finance. They don't teach it in schools. They don't teach it in colleges. They don't teach it in professions. They don't teach it. So I'm happy to do these things, the radio show and the TV shows, so we can at least educate people in the workshops that we do and the symposiums, because I believe if you educate someone and they become comfortable, the trust and the relationship grows so much more.
100%. I mean, not to digress more, but also women haven't been traditionally educated on this topic, and we are finding that women live longer than men, maybe for a reason, but we're oftentimes left with a pile of statements and finances that we can't understand because we haven't been filled in. I think it's so important. I'm sure when people come to you, you'd rather have, if you're married, bring your spouse with you. Everybody needs to be on the same page.
Well, we have found a lot is who's ever in charge of the finances, man or woman, they come to us first, check us out, see what we like, and then on the second and third, they bring their spouse back.
Absolutely.
And usually they're not that interested. It's more like, well, if something happens to me, I want you to know who my spouse is.
I mean, we have these kind of conversations in our household all the time. And I just think it's nice to be, we don't have to handle all the minutiae every day. It's nice to be all on the same page, because if we're looking at this as a means to an end, and what is that end? To enjoy those years of our life, to be able to do the things that we've worked so hard to do. And we can only do that if we're all working as a team.
Right. So, God forbid if something happens to your husband, do you know how to replace the income?
Good Lord.
Right. That's the position that most people are in. Because now you get this investments, hopefully, there's life insurance or something that's involved. You got this, now what do you do? Well, it's no different than when you retire. Okay?
We had this conversation. We have life insurance on him, and then he didn't have any on me. And so I said, okay, let's talk about that. So if I go, who's taking care of our 4 children? How much is that going to cost you to replace me and all the things that I do that aren't necessarily monetized, right, outside of work? And then he went out and
like what?
Really?
Cooking. What do we have now? We have Uber. They can bring us food.
Yeah, but you're going to put a dollar
house cleaning. You get somebody to clean the house.
But you're going to put a price on all of those things.
Right.
I mean, I know I'm irreplaceable, but I'm just saying you're going to put a price on all those things. But I digress. So.
All right. So go back to the income gap. Okay. So when you're doing the plan, the one thing you always want to look at people and say, how much you're going to spend? What's your lifestyle like? And it's important to figure out. And I know most people say, well, I'm not going to spend that much more when I retire. And I say, no, we're going to increase that by 10%. The reason I want to increase it is because taxes can go up, right? The fact that you think you're not going to do something, it's going to cost you more than you thought it might. And you're going to have a different phase of mind. And if you don't, you just save it, and it's that much better. And so say somebody needed $100,000 in their retirement. I said, well, we've got to shoot for maybe 110, 120 of income coming to you. And so they ended up having $75,000 they're going to get between a pension and Social Security. So how do we make up the other 50? Well, then you have to look at what investments they have. They got their 401k plans, they got different things. And so you got to put together an income a game plan. And there's different ways to do it. There's, today you can get at least 4% or so in government bonds. But that might only last for a couple of years. So how do you continue to get that to go out? So we've done something that I call a sort of a strategic income model that plays on all this stuff, but you put money away. So say you need $100,000, you need $50,000 a year. You put $50,000 in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year treasuries. You know you're always going to get that money. Every year that comes due. Then you take the rest of the portfolio and you generate another $50,000, okay, from dividends, interest, and growth. And now you buy every year you go out and buy another laddered treasury. But here's the thing: if it doesn't work out because interest rates are coming down, what do you do in the other part? So now what we're using is an annuity that goes out 5 or 6 years or so with an income rider. We don't turn on the income rider if we don't need it at that time, but if we do, we got to make sure it's going to produce us that money that we're missing of about $4,000 a month. All right? So that's how you kind of set up the whole portfolio so they have it. So now once that's happening, then they don't have to touch any of their investments, they don't have to touch any of their growth spot, but they get to that point to be able to survive until that income can turn on for them.
So talk to me about the difference between the passive and the active investments.
Well, passive investments are what you're going to get off your investments. You buy a bond, that's passive income. You buy annuity, and they're going to give you a monthly check. That's it. Your Social Securities are passive. Your pension is passive. What's not passive is when you're working, W-2 wages, 1099 wages. You got a business yourself. When you get paid, that's active. You have to actively be part of that, of earning income. But you got to be careful of what level you're at, because now, if you're looking at it when you're bringing in Medicare and you're bringing in Social Security, you want to keep your income down as low as possible. Because a little over $19,000 of Social Security, then you get start taxes on your Social Security. If you wait till your full retirement age, which is 66 and change today, then that at least you won't get taxed on all that, but it'll be part of your 85% will be part of your income. You know, but if you're taking it beforehand, say you're taking it 65 or 64 or 63, you got to be very careful that you don't go over that threshold, because now part of that Social Security is going to be penalized also. So there's all planning that goes into this. Medicare, same thing. If you make it a certain amount of money, that Part B continues to go higher and higher and higher. Unless, of course, you get the supplement.
It's so much like so many things in life where timing is so much of it. It's not necessarily the amount of money, but it's when and how you take the money. And that's why this like whole kind of fine dance that happens. If you don't have a financial advisor, we're not how are we advised? Have you ever tried looking at Social Security website? It's so complicated.
Right. We make it simple. We got a nice little program that shows if you take it now, if you take it at this age, if you take it at full retirement age, you take it at 70, what your wife would get versus what you would get. So we have some people that the wife starts, if they're a little older, at 66 and change, and then the husband will wait till he's 70. And then that ends up getting a nice little return for them, as long as they have the assets that you can bridge that gap. You always have to bridge the gap.
Well, I want to make sure people have that phone number. Again, it's 844-544-4909. It's not just on your screen for no reason. It's there so that we can give you the gift of a complimentary, I know you love to say the word free,
What's
analysis.
wrong with free?
I don't know. It's another F word. What are you saying? But just to be able to come in and have a conversation, that's really all it is, and a great cup of coffee. But to find out whether or not you are on the right path to getting to your retirement in the way that you envisioned, in the way that you dreamed.
100%. If you're not doing the right things leading into retirement becomes that much more difficult. If you retired and you don't do something because you think you passed, it becomes that much more difficult. If you're in that distribution phase and you're trying to take out money and you're taking out too much taxable money, if you're being taxed, if you're not manipulating it the right way to save on taxes, it's costing you money. There's so many things you can do or have to do to save you.
Dean, my life is already so difficult. I would love to just simplify, okay?
Well, we come back. I want to talk about converting your 401k, your IRAs into Roth conversions.
Okay, let's do it. Stay with us, and that's what we'll talk about.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only. To set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hello and welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Dean Greenberg of Greenberg Financial Group. Before break, you asked me to start talking about Roth conversion, so let's do it.
Well, because we're talking about this income and the situation. And so when people get to that retirement age and then their active income is gone, now they're living on the passive income, we try to figure out the best way to get them the most money without having to pay taxes. Because just think, if you can save 40% or 30% or 20%, whatever tax bracket somebody's in on their money that's being distributed to them, that's that much more money coming to them.
Right.
So what do I mean by that? So in other words, if you're getting $50,000, right, and you don't have to pay $10,000 in taxes, which would, then you would only get 40, you're getting 50. So one of the things we look at is how do we, especially when the markets are down like they are, at what level can we move money from their IRAs into a Roth IRA? And it's called the Roth conversion. Yes, you pay taxes. If you take out $100 grand and move it over, you're going to pay taxes on it. But that money then will grow. But then when you're taking that money out, it's tax-free. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have a little bit. If you can take it out where you stay underneath the limit, and it's not hurting you for Social Security, and it's not hurting you for Medicare and stuff, then you move it over, and then that money can grow for you as you take it out some of the others, and that money then ends up becoming to you tax-free.
So is it a fair assumption that you'd want to do that maybe in a year where you're doing well, your business is doing well, and
not when you're doing well.
Not when you're doing
well. When you don't have as much income on the other side.
Okay.
Okay, because you don't want to push yourself into a whole nother tax bracket. So you try to do it so you don't get to the next tax bracket. You stay underneath it. You pay the taxes on there.
But you got to pay the taxes up front.
Right. You pay the taxes. It becomes part of your income.
Yep.
But Roth 401ks now have an attachment, a lot of them, that have Roth 401k plans. Look to try to see if your employer has it. Put some of the money into that. That grows for you. It's not tax. What it is, you don't get the tax relief now. You get the tax relief later. So if you accumulate $100,000 in your Roth 401k plan, when you take that money out, you might not have saved on taxes every year, but when you're taking that money out, you don't have to pay taxes.
Dean, does that mean you think taxes are going to go up?
I hope not. It's going to depend who gets in and controls Congress, obviously. But I don't see how we're going to be able to pay the debt that we have. We're going to pay the piper here sometime. They borrowed so much money for the pandemic plus and didn't stop. We could have stopped a few $1 trillion ago. We didn't, which is why the reason we have so much inflation. But eventually, and you know, we got some new people in that are talking about, hey, we got to go back to the 22 budget. We can't increase the budget anymore unless we cut spending. There's good things on the table from the idea of we can save ourselves. And it really gets me, you know, Sarah, and everyone's so worried about climate change, right? So worried about climate change. I want clean climate. I want clean water. I want clean air. I want to do the things we need to do. But nobody cares about Social Security running out. Social Security will run out before our climate is ever goes away, okay? And the Social Security has maybe 7 to 10 years if we don't do something about it. The climate, I can tell you right now, they've been telling me since I've been 25 that in 5 years we're not going to have an Earth anymore. I'm not saying we don't fix it. We are fixing it, the carbon. But our problem is staring us in the face with our debt, with our Social Security, and if we don't change it and protect ourselves from raising taxes by doing whatever we can do now when we're 40 and 50 years old, you're going to be holding the bag later on.
Well, we've talked so many times about taxes being one of the biggest risks. And the reason for that is we all have to pay them, right? We're all privileged to be American citizens, and it is our joy and our privilege to do that, but we don't want to pay too much. And just by proper planning, we can avoid that.
To a certain extent. Right now, I mean, the higher end tax brackets are higher. Yes, I know people talk, oh, they were 70, they were 90%. That was for very few people, okay? The bottom line is the people that are going to get hurt are going to be the lower end. They're the ones who are going to have to increase the taxes. That's where the bulk of the people are. I mean, you can charge billionaires whatever you want. They won't pay it because they have tax accountants and lawyers and everybody else to fix their problem, okay? They don't need that money. They put it away. It's family legacy money that goes away. You want to fix the problem? You get Congress to fix the problem, and you start getting rid of the loopholes, and you start going ahead and making people pay their fair share. I've said this for 20 years. You want a fair share? Flat tax. That's the only thing that's fair, right? What else is fair, you know?
Well, we were talking before about it. It's so much of this is timing. So if you don't have a plan in place, there's no way to predict whether or not you're taking your money out at the right time from the right place. If I have $20 and I take $10 out from the wrong account that I'm going to be taxed on versus one that I'm not, I'm doing myself a disservice. And the only way to know that is to come to a financial professional.
And see where everything falls into place. It's all like a puzzle. If you take from here, it increases here. If you take from here, it decreases here. And this is what you need to be able to do, and you can only do it by sitting down with a plan. I can tell you right now, if we do not stop spending, and our budget, which is our debt, which is 31 trillion now, keeps going up, the only way they're going to be able to do it is to raise taxes. Even if it's just for a short period of time, they're going to have to raise taxes to get us back to a balanced budget, and that's going to take that's going to hurt a lot of people.
So if this is a conversation that you've never had or that one that you know you need to have, this is a complimentary financial plan that Dean is offering. It's basically like, come in and let's talk about your money. It's an education. And I know for me, I always want more information. Information is power. If I'm not on the right track, please tell me so that I can get there. Let's just take this off the table. We have enough stress to deal with, and get this plan going so we can just set it and forget it and then move on, get to retirement.
There's another problem that, we'll probably talk about next week on our show, is that today's children cannot afford the things that even we were able to afford, or our parents were able to afford, or their grandparents in that case. They can't. Houses have gone through the roof, but their income hasn't gone through the roof. Their food prices, babies, raising kids have gone through the roof. Education is through the roof. So what you have to do is look at it and say, I see parents and kids kind of working more together now, but that's part of your whole plan.
Dean, everybody watching and sitting from this end of the table, your passion is obvious. You love what you do. Please give us a call. Come on in, have a conversation with Dean, find out if you're on the right path to retirement. And if you're not, don't you want to know? Plus, isn't he hilarious and very entertaining? So I don't know why. There's no downside. Complimentary. That number is 844-544-4909. Dean, it's always too much fun. We never have enough time. We hope you'll join us on the next show so we can talk more about how your money matters.